What would you say about Post Malone?
Post Malone?
Yeah,
Post Malone? Not beautiful.
that's ridiculous.
I mean, people.
Post Malone is a beautiful human being. His music, is that what's in question?
Well, yeah, I thought so. I mean, we were talking about aesthetics of music here.
Yes,
Oh,
moving
okay,
on.
all right, yeah.
Does anybody have a guess on how many times Jesus, who's the inaugurator of the new and everlasting covenant, how many times he uses that word? It's trivia night, everybody. You got to be bold. This is like a preview. At least once. You're not wrong. Any other guesses? Precise guesses? 33? Sarah? 7? Okay. It is actually just...
It's like I'm not going to be all bent out of shape if the precious blood's not offered at Mass one day. And some people, they're really connected to that. That's okay. That's a personal experience and a subjective experience of the liturgy. That's personal, and it should be that way. Our heart should be engaged in the Mass, and we should have a love for the Mass.
Let me invite up Father Nowicki, who's a priest of the Diocese of La Crosse and associate pastor at Our Lady of the Falls Catholic Community in Chippewa Falls. He entered seminary in 2017 and was ordained in 2024. He finished his philosophy studies in 2019 with a focus on the aesthetics of music. Everybody, Father David Nowitzki. And sitting to my right is my boss, also known as the very Reverend Father Daniel Sedlacek, who grew up in a farm in Cornell. Inspired by the zeal of St. Francis Xavier, he entered seminary after high school and was ordained a priest at St. Joseph the Workman in La Crosse on June 25th, 2016. Father Sedlacek enjoys hunting, bonfires, reading, growing a beard, playing banjo, and sharing life with his parishioners. Everybody, the very Reverend Father Daniel Sedlacek. Just single push. Yep, you should be good. Try it. Yep.
1, 2, 3.
Turn it on.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm on. Okay.
They're going to be adjusting. We got a professional tech crew over here. So thank you guys. Let's give it up for the behind the scenes guys and girls that make this night a success. Sounds good. All right. So Ask Your Father podcast live. So Father Nowicki, you've been a part of how many of these that we've recorded?
I'm a seasoned veteran. I've done like 2.
Yeah, that is a seasoned vet. And Father Sedlacek, this is your debut, right?
Second time.
Second time. I don't remember the first time.
It was last month.
Oh man, I don't. Oh, well, yeah, if you count the event, Catholicism on Tap.
Yes. Oh, on the podcast?
Yeah, podcast.
Oh.
Ask Your Father.
Yeah, this is my second time on a podcast too.
Mac Chat.
Third time.
We better get into questions. All right.
Kugels.
2 sips does it for Father Sedlacek. Okay, so here's the first one. This is a good open-ended one. It's what is something you wish more people asked about when joining the church? This was written by a non-Catholic who's coming into the church, and she's curious. What's something you wish more people asked about when joining the church?
Yeah, I think, well, the first thing that comes to mind for me is, I think like the most important thing in the Christian life is just the question, how do I grow in holiness, right? And I don't think whether you've been a Catholic your entire life or not, or whether you're not yet a Catholic, I think that is kind of the big question that frames everything. And I think very seldom do we actually think about, like, how do I grow in holiness? How do I become a saint? And so I think that's maybe the first question that I would like to hear, because I think that offers some really deep fruit. The answer is it's not a simple answer, not by any means. The answer is going to be a lifetime, but that's, I think, the question that's best to be occupied on our minds. Yeah.
Whether somebody's becoming Catholic or been Catholic their whole life, the question, I don't know if this doesn't answer the question. I'll do a lot of that tonight. I'll answer my own questions because I like them better. But I think, but similar to this question is what I wish more people would ask me in general, whether they're joining the church or not. It's just because I love people asking me this question, which is, Father, how do I pray? Like, how do I actually do that? How do I have a relationship with God? I love that. That's the best. Those are the best conversations. And when somebody's actually open to that, that's one of the best things. one of the best things ever. It's a really great moment to be able to be in that position to try to help and guide a soul to be closer to God through prayer.
Another great question. How do you pronounce your last name? That's a good one. Yeah, I've been getting that a lot lately, especially.
I don't know why. Why is there confusion? Who doesn't know? It's Novitsky, right? Novitsky.
Yeah, this is a contentious topic.
Yikes.
Nowicki.
Next question.
Also known as Father Wiki.
Father Wiki. Father Wookie. We heard really.
As well.
Father Wookie. Yeah.
That works too.
Father Wookie. All right. Okay. In your opinion, this is sort of more a question with more maybe historical and theological development bent to it. In your opinion, what was the most pivotal moment or age in the development of Christian faith after the time of the apostles?
Well, in 1989, I was born, so that's pretty pivotal, I think, in the life of the church.
I'll do it.
No, I don't know. I guess I haven't thought about it too much, but I would think that a couple things come to mind. I studied St. Augustine for a year of my life, like solely, like this is what I did for my theological studies. And I think that era of the end of the Roman Empire and the whatever came after that, and that period was really pivotal in the life of the church. Okay. The regularization of Christianity in the life of a society, and Christianity kind of taking a place of the civilization that was crumbling around it, and rebuilding that Western civilization from the monastic movement, from those late church fathers and the early monastics. So I think that's a really crucial period in the history of the church.
Father Wookie?
I mean, at least as far as we're concerned, I mean, the most pivotal moment in history is Christ. That's the center. And everything else is just kind of there's good things and bad things at every moment in history. I think for our sakes, it's good for us to know the history of, particularly the history of the church, but also all of salvation history, and be able to then apply that to where we're living now. I mean, yeah, as far as we're concerned, this is the most important moment in history for us, because it's the moment in which our salvation is at stake.
Any further reading you might suggest on the topic if somebody wants to dive into the history of Christianity and its impact on society, culture, thought?
I would recommend Warren Carroll's 4-volume series.
6-volume.
6-volume series. Thank you, Father. It's a long series. It's a lot, but I would recommend it. It's very good.
It's one of those series that you put on the bookshelf, and then if you want to record a video yourself, you have that series behind you, and it makes you look eminently intelligent, whether you've read any of it or not.
Identify with that, yep.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, good. This is a question specifically for you, Father Nowicki. I'm wondering if Father Nowicki, I'm just going to do it out of deference, of course, to my pastor here. Father Nowicki, if you could explain the aesthetics of music that you study. So some noticed in your bio that you had an emphasis in the study of the aesthetics of music. What is that?
Yeah, if I could explain it, I wouldn't have studied it. So yeah, for those of you who don't know, about 10 months ago, thereabouts, I did a Catholicism on Tap about beauty, right? And yeah, so aesthetics is a branch of philosophy that deals with the arts, the philosophy of art and the philosophy of beauty. Now that's a bit of a contentious question in the contemporary era of aesthetics, but that's beside the point. We as Catholics know that it is the philosophy of beauty, because beauty is one of the 3 transcendentals along with truth and goodness. The aesthetics of music, quite simply, is the philosophy of the beauty of music as regards music. My focus what I wrote my master's thesis on was responding to the aesthetics of a certain Theodor Adorno, who was a 20th century philosopher from West Germany. He was he's kind of had a Marxist bent, and really spoke about music in very terms of it being kind of this machine that's just used to gain capital and all that sort of thing. And so I pushed back on that a little bit, and then kind of started to dive a little bit into beauty as a transcendental, but then that's kind of where philosophy ends and where it has to hand over to theology. So if you want to read about a really good aesthetics, I would recommend the 2-volume Aesthetics by Dietrich von Hildebrand. He's a Catholic philosopher who originally from Austria and then moved here around World War II. Fantastic work, very dense, very difficult to read, but it's pretty good stuff. So that's that.
Sweet. Anything you want to add to the aesthetics of music?
What would you say about Post Malone?
Post Malone.
Yeah,
Post Malone. Not beautiful.
that's ridiculous.
You know, I mean, people.
Post Malone is a beautiful human being. His music, is that what's in question?
Well, yeah, I thought so. I mean, we were talking about aesthetics of music here.
Yes,
Oh,
moving
okay.
on.
All right. Yeah.
Moving right along. Just so you know, the back leg of your chair is about a half inch away from the edge of this stage.
I like living life on the edge.
And you are within safe distance. If you're printing out a piece of paper, you know, sometimes it'll say something like print danger zone. If you get too far to the edge, it's like, you need to correct your page, otherwise your print's going to come back bad. This dude's,
I'm
Right
outside.
there.
I'm outside the margins of the stage.
you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The stage safety zone is being violated right now. Another question for you, Father Nowicki. Sorry, you didn't get any direct questions, I don't think, in all of this, other than sort of beard hygiene, but we're going to get to that a little bit later. So I'm wondering, since I don't recall, I'm just going to read this verbatim. Hi, Father Nowicki. I'm wondering, since I don't recall if you are a hunter, fisherman, or dog sledder, one of those is not like the other. I stole that from you. Do you enjoy outdoor sports like any of these? I know you can compete with our kids on slinging a rocket of a football at the playground. Any other outdoor sports, though?
No, I've never been outside in my life. Yeah, no, I didn't really get into outdoorsmen, hunting, fishing, that sort of stuff myself. I've never been hunting before. I did fish when I was a kid. My family was pretty big into fishing, but aside from that, I mean, as the philosopher that I am, you know, I like God's creation for God's creation's sake. So just being out there, it's good. Yeah.
Roger that.
Well, I'll also say I did a lot of backpacking and camping too. I enjoy that too.
Okay. You spend any time outdoors, Father? You any hunting or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I got 2 bucks there last weekend, so yeah, that was really nice. Yeah,
Nice.
it's true. It's actually true. I'm not making that up. Yeah,
He sent me a picture of their truck, like the hunting party. It's just like deer stacked on deer.
3 stack. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a deer massacre.
It was, yeah. If you don't like
Did well.
blood, wait, what else do you like doing outside?
Anything pretty much. Although interesting fact, I've never been camping before ever. I know that's the usual reaction. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, I don't know. Never done it. No one's ever invited me. So there you go.
Bum, bum, bum. Next thing you know, he's got like 12 emails tomorrow morning. Father said, Logic, you want to go camping with our family?
Tomorrow?
Winter camping. That's
Winter
extreme.
camping.
That's
It's
crazy.
fun. It's
That's
very fun.
crazy. No, that's weird. Yeah, that's oh, man.
I've got a theory about this, if I can just tangent here a little bit. So, do you think it's because you're a farmer? So I grew up on a kind of farm, and camping has never appealed to me. How many farmers are out there? How many of you grew up on a farm or still have some kind of farm? Okay, and then keep your hands up if you're also that farmer and camping just doesn't really appeal to you at all. Okay, I see some hands went down. That's my theory, is that on the farm you spend all day outside just sweating like a dog, so why spend all night just shivering like a
Dog.
Leaf.
dog? Leaf. That was the phrase I was looking for. Is that right? Is that
Yeah.
the same?
I think so. My dad said that he spent enough time camping in the military that he didn't need to do it anymore. So that's the end of that. He said we could go camping, but man, he wasn't going to go with us. So
Okay, I want to switch gears here to some liturgical questions. We had several liturgical questions. First, I just want to ask a question about liturgy. What is liturgy? When Christians use the word liturgical or liturgy, what do we mean?
we
Concelebration.
very, very much mean something along the lines of the worship of God. So it's the church's prayer, the church's official prayer and worship of God. So And there's a dynamic aspect of this where God has revealed to us in certain ways through revelation how he wants to be worshiped, thinking especially in the Old Testament and the Mosaic covenant. And Jesus himself instituted a form of the main form of our worship the night before he died, the Last Supper. And that command, like, do this in remembrance of me. And so church's liturgy, when you talk about liturgy, is really the sense of like our prayer together as a church, united to Christ and united to his prayer and his offering to the Father. And so that takes in main form, kind of the center form in the sacraments, and in a special way, the Eucharist and the celebration of the Mass. But also has other forms as well, such as the Liturgy of the Hours, which is a series of prayers that people pray throughout the day. And this originates back to the monastic times, and even before that, to Jesus' time, where the Jewish people would pray from the Psalms, these prayers of the Jewish people, written mostly by King David, and they would pray these psalms at different points of the day or on different feast days. And so we continue on that unending prayer, that continuous prayer that Jesus himself prayed, these prayers, and continue that on every day in the life of the church. So priests and religious are obligated to pray at least some of these prayers every day. So that answers some of the question anyway.
Anything you want to other Nowicki?
What he said.
I'm interrupting your video because you're interrupting my conversation, so let's make this quick. If you like the video content that we put out on Catholic topics, if you're curious about Catholicism yourself, or you're a Catholic who's curious, just hit the subscription button below, and you'll get every video that we put out sent to your YouTube channel. Help us force YouTube to post Christian stuff. God bless. Can you do a little bit of semantics, etymology with us? Liturgy, what does that word mean?
Sure. Yeah. So liturgy is it comes from the Greek, which means work of the people, actually, which I think is kind of an interesting thing. Now, properly speaking, from the get-go, it always was kind of seen as work of the people, right? Because in early forms of liturgical praxis, it was going to be people making sacrifice to gods or whatever, depending on what sort of religion people had back in those days. But God elevated it to something where it's more of a cooperative action between the work of God and the work of man together. And it kind of comes together. Heaven and earth meet in the liturgy. So, yeah.
Yeah. I could just add an ingredient here. You mentioned the words of Jesus at the Last Supper, the institution narrative. Some of you might have heard me say this before, right? The words testament, Old Testament and New Testament, are basically parallel or synonymous words with the word covenant. The word covenant. So in the New Testament, does anybody know how many times in the Gospels, particularly, Jesus uses that word covenant? Which Christians use quite a lot, right? Like, we're a covenantal people. In other words, we're in a kinship family bond with God. We become his children. We're adopted into his family. We share intimacy with him. We share almost blood with him, you could say. It's that kind of intimacy. Anybody have a guess on how many times Jesus, who's the inaugurator of the new and everlasting covenant, how many times he uses that word? It's trivia night, everybody. You got to be bold. This is like a preview. At least once. You're not wrong. Any other guesses? Precise guesses? 33? Sarah? 7? Okay. It is actually just one time. One time. And you can look it up. It's in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 22. Read verses 16 through 23. That's the institution narrative in Luke. And that's when he says the words that you hear at every Mass. In persona Christi, take this, all of you, and eat of it is my body. Take this, all of you, and drink of it. For this is the covenant, this chalice specifically is the covenant in my blood. So he identifies the new covenant, not just with some just belief, but particularly with the chalice. And the chalice says, is his blood. So he situates the covenant with the sacrificial offering of himself on the cross, sacramentally present in the species of bread and wine. So I just want to highlight that point of you can't have covenant without sacrifice. And if you want fullness of covenant, that's why we emphasize the Eucharist so much. This is why we want the fullness. If you want fullness of covenant, you want to have fullness of sacrifice. And that comes from Jesus of Nazareth. So I know it's Q&A with the fathers. Nobody asked me anything. And you're all like, can we get back to the questions? But I just wanted to share that. So please don't throw tomatoes. We're going to get back to the questions here. Mass. What is the traditional Latin Mass? And what is its significance and celebration today?
Okay, so the traditional Latin Mass is a term that we use for just simply the Mass. That was in the form that it was prayed for. Just depends on who you ask how long for, but we'll just say from the beginning that people in Rome started doing this in remembrance of Jesus and offering the Eucharist and being developed, and the prayers developing over the centuries in this latest form right before the Second Vatican Council. So the last missal that was authorized to be used, that people termed like the traditional Latin Mass, is 1962. There was a 55 missal, there's a whatever missal, like all these different. Missal is the book that the priest uses to pray the Mass, and those are two words are connected. They're the same, from the same word. So the traditional Latin Mass is just saying the Mass as it was 1962 and prior, in general. So what is it? What's its significance and celebration today? So just a simple history is that there was a whole movement in the 20th century to really dive into the liturgy, and specifically in the celebration of the Mass. This was a movement that went on for decades and kind of came to a head when the bishops met in the Second Vatican Council from 1960 to 1962 to 1961 to 1965. There we go, 62 to 65.
Father John Schultz was there. Isn't that right, Father John? He convened the council.
Yeah, we have an expert in the room. So that's right. And the Council Fathers just simply said, this is a good thing. We need to look at revising the liturgy in order to help people to really experience the fullness and the depths of this communion with Christ. Okay, so there's a commission put together after the council looking at this revitalizing or revising the liturgy. And they came out with a new missal, which, as it was called, a new missal that was promulgated Advent 1969, also known as the 1970 missal. Very confusing. So that's called the new order or the new missal. And so those are the two terms. That's all fine and good. The Church has revised liturgy throughout the centuries. There's a big revision of the liturgy in the Council of Trent, for example, in the 1500s. We have different liturgies and expressions in the Catholic Church and different rites, the Byzantine Rite, the Maronite Rite. We have all these different liturgical expressions, and especially surrounding the Eucharist throughout the history of the Church and in different branches of the Catholic faith. And so what's its significance today? I think the significance today is just a little bit of a sense of, I think people get hung up, or there's a distinction that needs to be made that's really helpful. One is that we call it the traditional Latin Mass, and in the sense of sort of like that Latin is a very particular thing about it. I think people to call it that because before 1960, 1970, well, 1960, we'll just say 1962, the Mass could only be said in Latin. It was the only language that the Mass in the Roman Rite was allowed to be prayed in. There's exceptions and whatever, and different liturgical experts will contend this, but in general, broad brushes. So that's why it's called the Latin Mass. That never changed after the council. The new Mass is done in Latin as well. The language never changed. Permission was given for there to be translations of the Latin Missal into the vernacular languages. So vernacular just mean like English, Spanish, etc., the languages that the people tend to speak in the different places. So there's a distinction there in that Latin never went away. It's always been the language of the Roman Catholic Church, and it's always been the language of the liturgy. You go to a Mass with the Pope in Rome, it's going to be in Latin. That's always been from the 300s or whatever. So So there's the Latin, but then there's also then what happened then too was a change, a difference in the ritual aspect. So the council could have had it that they're like, okay, we're just going to take this mass and we're just going to translate it into English, and that's that. Nothing's going to change except the translation of the language. But they also revised a little bit of the rituals as well. The gestures, some of the prayers were revised a little bit. Some of the gestures, the movements, and things like that. And so that's the real distinction, the real difference there. So there's the Latin, the language, and then there's the ritual and the differences in prayer. Why is this relevant to anybody? Because this is my opinion. Now I'm going to opinion zone. Opinion is that, and this is just me speaking to a lot of people over time of my life, is that the experience of many Catholics who lived through that era of the Mass changing or seemingly changing was very dramatic and traumatic in a lot of ways. And a lot of people describe it as being very abrupt, and like it happened like overnight. And also, I went to Mass and it was like this one day, and then I went to Mass the next week, and it was completely different, jarring, and it was a hard thing for people to figure out and to understand. And so that was the experience of many people. Also, what happened in that era, in some places, not all places in the church, but some places, is that some people in the life in the Catholic world took this opportunity, the changes, to make their own changes that weren't approved by the church, and so there were many abuses that happened as well. Abuse in the liturgy is not an exclusive thing, though, of 1975. There were many abuses in the liturgy prior to that as well. But anyway, this traumatic experience of change and something that's so central to our faith, I think has its repercussions and its ripple effects even down to our time, even 60 years later. So there's that, and so there's a sense, I think, for some people of looking at the Latin Mass and be like, okay, like things seem like they were more or less together, at least less chaotic then than it is now, and we like that. We like that it was the liturgy, like the Mass is like it's predictable, it's not chaotic, it's very I know what to get, I know what's expected. A lot of people's experience of the Latin Mass, as is mine, is that is a very reverent thing. It's like there's a reverence and there's kind of a transcendence and otherworldliness to it. Again, that's a personal experience of the liturgy, and all of us have very different subjective personal experiences of Mass. Just a little example, me growing up, I never went to Sunday Mass in which the precious blood was offered to the people. I never saw that. I never experienced that. Some people grew up being able to receive the precious blood at communion at every Sunday Mass. That was not a personal experience of mine. So for me, just like in my own personal experience, and like that's not something that's really important to me as far as like the celebration of the Mass. It's like I'm not going to be all bent out of shape if the precious blood's not offered at Mass one day. And some people, they're really connected to that. That's okay. That's a personal experience and a subjective experience of the liturgy. That's personal, and it should be that way. Our heart should be engaged in the Mass, and we should have a love for the Mass. I think the thing that happened, or can happen, is that, and has happened, is that a lot of times people's subjective experiences and their preferences start to ride above other things. And so you have a lot of people who will say, like, well, I prefer Mass this way. Well, they don't say that. They say, like, Mass should be this way. Father, you should sing this song because it's my favorite song. Okay, that's nice, Father, you should face this way or face that way. Father, you should hold your hands like this. I literally had parishioners saying, like, Father, like, you should, like, when you say, the Lord be with you, you should be like this. I'm like, okay, thank you for your feedback. But the people, and that's okay, like, okay, you have your preferences. That's okay. That's fine. As long as we recognize that they're preferences. So the challenge for us as Catholics is that when we pray together, is that all of us have our own ways of praying that are helpful, that are unhelpful, that might be unhelpful for others. All of us have our things that help us more and things that help us less. But when we pray together, The key is to do what the church allows and and not do what the church doesn't allow. I think that's the big thing. There were a lot of abuses in the liturgy. Well, there's some now, of course, and there were some back in the. Remember people telling me, some really older folks who are passed on now, saying like, oh yeah, like Father so and so, this is like traditional Latin Mass, right, where everything was beautiful and everything was amazing and there was no problems. So, Father so and so, he could say Low Mass in 17 minutes. Now I prayed Low Mass before, the Latin Mass, and I'm like, I don't know how that's possible. How could you say those words in Latin? There's a lot of words that the priest has to pray in the Latin Mass, more than in the new form of the Mass. So I don't know how Father so-and-so could do that, at least reverently. I don't think anyone could do that reverently. Either he's skipping words, he's mumbling over prayers. He's definitely probably not praying with his heart. He's probably just going as fast as he can to get Mass done with. And that happened. Those are a lot of people's experience of Mass in earlier times. And that was an abuse. That was an abuse of the liturgy, and people experienced that. So I don't know if that's helpful or if that answered the question, but here we are.
Thank you for that. Father Nowicki, anything you'd add?
Yeah, maybe just to to kind of tie a bow on the whole thing. The diversity of perspectives and preferences is part of the reason that the liturgy is regulated and that there's liturgical law, so that we are able to do it together, preferences aside. Now, what the church should and shouldn't legislate, I mean, that's not that's above my pay grade, let alone all of our pay grades. We can have good discussion about that, but at the same time, the church has regulated and said, this is the way Mass can be celebrated, this is the way Mass cannot be celebrated. And to a certain extent, there's okay, if the church says that, okay, we're going to follow it. Doesn't mean that we can't have healthy discussion about that, but we can also say, for the sake of unity, for us being together, let's trust Holy Mother Church and say, all right, we'll do this together. And we can also kind of talk about what is best for us to celebrate the liturgy corporately and what isn't good for us to celebrate the liturgy corporately. We can have those discussions and also still say, and this is what the church has currently.
Okay, great. We actually, if you go to other Ask Your Father podcasts, we talk quite in depth about certain elements of the Latin Mass and a lot of liturgical questions. But we better move on because, holy smokes, here we are. It's 10 after 7 already. So why don't we just see if we can rapid fire through a few of these. What is the proper use of hands for a layperson during the Our Father in Mass?
The proper use for the hands of a layperson. Nothing says what a layperson should or shouldn't do with their hands. It is silent. Now, that silence doesn't mean that one can't read between the lines. First of all, there's a lot of people who like to hold their hands. Hand-holding is largely a communal and horizontal action, and it seems to duplicate and diminish the value of the sign of peace if we do that. So hand-holding, it also doesn't have a very good historical precedent in the liturgy. We don't really have any hand-holding anywhere in the history of the liturgy. So hand-holding is not really seen as the mode for us in the Our Father. Now, what about just holding our hands up like the priests, like the orans position? Well, in there, that is largely a presider's stature, posture. Thank you. Yes, good word to use. Posture to collect all of the prayers of everyone together. And you might say, oh, well, but we're saying the Our Father ourselves, so we should be able to do that too. But here's the kicker. In the rubrics, while it doesn't say anything about the faithful, one thing it does very explicitly say is that the priest and the concelebrants hold their hands in the orans position. They don't hold hands either. But it does specifically say that the deacon keeps his hands folded. Now, if everybody else did the orans position and the deacon was the only one keeping his hands folded, now that wouldn't be a sign of unity in any way, shape, or form. So I think that the specific injunction for the deacon to keep his hands folded seems to imply that the faithful are to keep their hands folded as well. There you go.
Ditto.
That was really good. Holy cow. Wow. Question on godparents here. This is prescient for people who have babies who are getting baptized or adults who are entering the church, just looking for a godparent or a sponsor. Can you explain the role of a godparent if the parents of the child are not practicing their faith? Where do the godparents step in, and how can godparents do this encouragingly and with a heart for discipleship, sharing the faith, accompanying the child and the family for the baptized child?
Sounds like this question is excluding the option of kidnapping the child and raising them as their own. Okay, no, I'm joking. Father, don't joke about kidnapping. Okay, so I think it's
Edit that out, could you guys?
it's that so godparents. I mean, I don't know if the role really changes. The role is always the same. It's always the same regardless of the parent's faith or the change of a parent's faith. Someone who baptized their child and chooses you to be a godfather, godmother, is to pray for that child, to support them in the practice of the faith as best as you can in your role and in your station. That's going to be different circumstances likely for everybody. It's a hypothetical question, so at least it says if this happens. So but the role is gonna be the same. You're gonna be an example of faith yourself, and pray for that child, and be a good example in their life in the maximum degree that you're able to do, excluding kidnapping.
And, for those of us who maybe will be asked to be godparents in the future, it presents an opportunity to set a tone with the parents and to be able to open up that conversation to say, how can I help you raise your son or daughter as a disciple of Jesus? Or maybe offer a few things like, hey, I would like to do this kind of on a regular basis with your son or daughter, like just go to mass with them or meet with them regularly or something like that, and be able to have these conversations, to be able to offer something right off the bat as a spiritual help to parents. We can do that right off the bat as soon as we're asked to be godparents.
Great. Final question. This is more of a personal one for the two of you. As we begin Advent and we prepare for Christ's coming, we reflect on his past coming in the incarnation. We reflect on his silent or hidden coming now in this moment or in the sacraments. And we prepare, of course, for his third and final coming. What are some good tips, maybe just briefly here, that in your own experience in terms of having a fruitful season of preparation during Advent? How can we really enter into the season of preparation without just letting it coast by?
I would say like one good way is like getting up between the hours of 11 p.m. and say 5 a.m. and spending an hour in the Adoration Chapel at Goldsmith, particularly. That's a good one, very good one.
They're in need of a doors during that time. So
it's very providential, isn't it? Yeah. So that would be one thing I would say. But
okay, you convinced me.
Yes. All right. But on a more serious note, I don't know. I think one of the beautiful things about our liturgical year is that it coincides with the seasons, right? The external season, and so we're in a time of a lot of darkness right now. And for me, actually, I mean, you don't have to get up at 2 a.m. to do this, but to be able to spend time waiting for the light in the darkness, seeking those first streaks of dawn. I've had some really, really fruitful prayer in the chapel with the only light that I see is the tabernacle, the sanctuary lamp. Just like keeping vigil in this, time where it's still dark, but we still, as Christians, see that glimmer of light. So it's not for everyone. Maybe, it takes a little bit of time to get there. Maybe it just, is a couple of minutes to start, but I really like that, spending time watching for the light.
If I can just add, building on that real quick, you might see at your tables or in some of your chairs, we have sign-up forms for the Adoration Chapel. We're really, praise the Lord, putting a strong emphasis and push on spending time with Jesus in prayer, spending face-to-face time with Jesus in the Adoration Chapel, newly remodeled with the annex attached. It's a perfect season, if you will, not only in terms of the finishing of the building project, but also of the season of Advent and some of the principles that you hit upon, Father, to pray like you never have before. Pray like you never have before. Be bold and set out and do something beautiful for Jesus when it comes to setting aside time for him. So if maybe you already have an adoration hour, I would submit and encourage you to maybe look at a second one, or convince one of your friends who's been a holdout all of these years to sign up for an hour. There's nothing more beautiful than spending time with Jesus of Nazareth in the Eucharist. So if you want to just fill out that form, scan it with your QR code, just check out what's available, and we're trying to make it 24/7. Imagine that. In little old Chippewa Falls, 24/7 prayer, face-to-face time with Christ our Lord. Father Sedlacek, last word before we take a little break and then pivot towards trivia.
I love the quote from St. Carlo Acutis, one of the most recently canonized saints, and saint who, if he was alive today, would be 2 years younger than me. So really incredible to think about that.
Wow, you're really young.
Yeah, exactly. He'd be young. He'd be 34 today. But he's in heaven, and he said, again, as witnessing as a teenager to the power of prayer, praying with Christ in the Eucharist and going to Eucharistic adoration, that one of my favorite, he's like, just like when you go and stand in the sun, you get a suntan, or sunburn for some of us. So too, when you go and you stand in front of Jesus, you become a saint. So when you stand in the sun, we get sunburned, get suntanned. If we stand in the presence of Jesus, we become saints.
You get a suntan.
A suntan.
S-O-N.
Okay, we need a break.
All right. Yo, I want to interrupt real quick. I want to give you one good reason to click the link in the description below. Because if you're watching this video and you like Catholicism on Tap, the topics that we talk about, the speakers that we bring in, it's not lost on us that you can easily enjoy that content from your couch. However, if you come into Catholicism on Tap, if you're near Chippewa Falls, come and join us. It's every month. It's for free, and you get free hors d'oeuvres and free beverages on us. Click the link in the description. I led with that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, everybody, let's bring it back. So here's what you want to do. So in groups of no less than 4, so groups between 4 and 8 people, that's what we're going to do. So here's the ground rules. I need to find my notes here to make sure that it is a fair and equitable and inclusive evening of trivia. John, are you being sarcastic?
No.
We may never know. All right, so a group of 4 to 8 people, here's what you can do. A group of 4 to 8 people, you may consult with each other, okay? So the group doesn't just mean that we're going to take an aggregate score of individuals at your table. You can communicate with each other, share insight and memories and concerns, and I don't know if that's right. And that's going to happen. We're going to have 20 seconds for each question. It's going to be a little bit quick. If we need to adjust, we will. But I'll start with 20 seconds. In fact, I might even bump it down for some, because some of them are going to be they're more humorous. So that's the first thing you do. Group of 4 to 8 people. You may consult with each other. Secondly, your group, and if you're sitting in the chairs, please participate. You can't play, or you can't win if you don't play. And if you get bad scores as a group, no one will ever know. Your battery is running low. You better get that plugged in. Mr. Chase, can I hand you this? This is why we pay big bucks for tech guys. Remember the days of old when I would try to fix stuff while I'm talking, and it was highly awkward. Okay, one person from your team, from your group, is the scribe. Okay, so you need one scribe, and that person keeps track. So for each question I ask, just write down 1, 2, 3 as we go, and then you put your answer, right? A, B, C, D. These are all going to be multiple choice. Okay, so it's going to be these two guys, these two mega minds versus all of you, right? All of you versus all of them. They haven't seen the questions beforehand. And despite being offered huge sums of money to share the quiz questions early, I miraculously resisted my chance at early retirement. And I guess it's not too late. Father Nowicki has not tried to bribe me. And actually, in this moment, that's everybody's.
We don't need it. Yeah.
All right. You guys don't need it. This will be easy. All right. No hints, advantages. I did catch my dad last night memorizing paragraphs from the Catechism of the Catholic Church, but then I realized that's pretty normative. All right. So I'm going to read the question. You have 20 seconds to write your final answer down. So you can consult as a group before I hit, as soon as that clock up in the upper right hits 0. You got to have it down. I'm just going to trust your honesty on that, so that you don't we don't want to do any of that. So try to get her done in advance. The answer is revealed, and then when the end comes, you can just count up how many questions you answered correctly. We'll compare that with the fathers. And the winning group or groups, should we have multiple groups of 4 to 8 people that score higher than your priests here, will invite you to a bonfire evening at their house. So the stakes are high. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Something about steaks and nicotine-stained fingers. Yeah, okay.
And banjos.
So Catholic trivia based on the Inquisition from Patrick Madrid. I better turn this on first. Come on, I tested it. It's on.
Did you trust the robots?
All right, we'll just do this. Section 1. Does anybody know what that first word is? It's actually not a quiz question, and it's not on the... Anybody know what that is? All right, very good. That's what you call another brownie point. All right, here we go. Which pope had a reputation for cracking jokes and telling humorous stories? I'm going to hit play. Yeah, why don't you? The answer is E. Pope John the 23rd. All right, very good. Next question. What is the Pater Noster commonly known as in English? I'm not going to go all 20 seconds on this. All right, here comes the answer. The Our Father. Okay, I hope you got that one. All right, who was the first? Yeah, Father Sedlacek got that one wrong, but he can catch up here. Who was the first pope to be photographed while being a pope? As soon as I bring my microphone up. The answer is C. Pope Pius IX. All right. Here we go. Next question. Question 4. The Greek phrase Kyrie eleison means, I'm going for A myself personally. I think we got it. Oh, you guys already got it. Look at that. All right. The answer is Lord have mercy. B.
So in the early days of Google Translate, one of my friends tossed Kyrie eleison into Google Translate, and it spit out "Calm down, sir."
So for all of you that rely on Google Translate, like this guy. All right. Next question. All right. Who was Caesar? Who was Caesar when Christ was born? The answer, A. Augustus. All right. He was Caesar when Christ was crucified. All right. Answer, E. Tiberius. All right. Next question. What does the Latin word credo, from which the English word creed is derived, mean? And I'm not going to give you 18 seconds for this one. You got 5 seconds, okay? Okay, I heard somebody say what? I'll be fair and equitable.
Heard about the Roman Empire. Thought about the Roman Empire 3 times today already. That's pretty amazing. It's a good day.
Dr. Dan Rizloff, an employee here, says that he thinks about the Roman Empire basically at any given moment. He's thinking of... In fact, this question just happened to intersect with what he was already thinking about. All right. Answer being, I believe. All right, here we go. Next, once widely called Devil's Brew, this beverage was approved by Pope Clement VIII in 1595. I should have put some. He's turning down the volume. So you don't, but now you're back on. So you can just keep your mics in. All right.
The one.
Answer being coffee. Are you coffee lovers out there? All right.
Baptizes.
The Catechism describes actual grace as, the answer is B, God's interventions. I see a fist pump from my uncle. All right. Well, that's good news for his table. All right. Next, who was the first pope to fly in an airplane?
Oh, this one? These are all actually kind of like... Think so?
And the answer is C, Pope Paul VI. How does Father Nowicki know these things? How are we on the time? Is 20 seconds on average okay? On average? I mean, sometimes it's probably a little long, sometimes a little short. We want to keep rolling here. All right. Next question. Who devised the basis of dividing epochs of time into BC and AD? BC and AD. I see somebody Googling in the back. I forgot to say that, but Grok and Gemini and all of the hibbity-hobbity oracles that you may consult off the table. I'm so sorry. Yeah, can't be Googling these live. The answer is D. Dionysius. God forbid you get company.
I hate bonfires. We better not lose, Father Nowicki.
All right. Yeah. Dreading. Holy cow. Okay. What does the slang term getting a golden sombrero refer to? I'll wait a moment here so you can read this and then start the timer. That's a long.
No way. Think.
The answer is, get him down, get him in. C. When a baseball player strikes out 4 times in one game. You hear it for the baseball fans out here that knew that phrase? Anybody? All right, next question. Holy cow. America's pastime after all, wounds. All right, moving on to the second section. So that was 12 questions. We've got 3 series of 12 questions, so we'll see what we get through. Childcare ends again at about 7:45. So you have to go pick up your kiddo or send the spouse that's in need of a little bit of redemption tonight, and the other one can stay a little longer. But we're going to go until we'll be done at 8 at the latest. If you need to go before then, feel free to go, but I'm shooting for 7:55. Section 2. Was a beetle baptized Catholic? Where did Jesus change Simon's name to Peter? Where? I'm sure it's Jericho, right? Money's on E. Answer B, Caesarea Philippi. Well, Matthew 16 action there. Check out Matthew 16, verses 13 through 19. What did the Lord say when the Israelites made the golden calf while Moses was receiving the 10 commandments? What did he say? It's like Batman trying to drive out of his driveway. A, behold, stiff-necked. All right, next question. Rifling along here, which biblical personage exclaimed the original
Nunc dimittis Domine. Nunc dimittis Domine.
for us lay people, now dismiss your servant, Lord. You guys? What you got? Oh. How did you do here?
The X's are the wrong answers.
And just as a hint, if you haven't done this yet, so you probably, if you got one wrong, just put an X by it, do something right away. And if you haven't been doing this, put something right away by that question so that you can just quickly reference it later, count it up, and we'll be on our way, okay? If you get any wrong. D, Simeon the prophet. All right. What does the biblical title Son of Man mean as Jesus used it? This one might be a little bit tricky.
You think something different?
B, be the Messiah. That was a
Right
tougher
answer always
one.
works, yeah.
They got that one right. Okay. What does the biblical title Son of God mean as it was said of Jesus in the Gospels? We got Son of Man, Son of God. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. D. He is the literal Son of God. These are trippy. Yeah. If you're having an epistemological crisis right now, you're not alone. All right. Who is the patron saint of Madrid? Here's kind of an easy one for you. A softball one to warm you up a little bit. Patron saint of Madrid. 3, 2, 1. C. Saint Isidore the Worker, otherwise known as Saint Isidore the Farmer. So if you put Saint Isidore the Farmer, you got it right. On which island did Saint John the Apostle spend his final years in exile?
Say Tatooine on there?
Tatooine?
No, not Tatooine. Okay. What's the one that Yoda was on?
And I just want to give a little bit of encouragement
Not the
here.
Dagobah.
If you're feeling like, wow, this is really easy, don't worry. We'll get harder here. And if you're feeling like, oh man, this is kind of hard, don't worry. We're going to get a little bit harder. Pardon me. A. Patmos. Sounds almost like a Star Wars name, right?
Yeah.
All right. That's a lot. Father Nowicki, can you read that for us?
The Catharist, a medieval heretical group in Europe, were best known for what bizarre practice? What were the Cathars known for?
I'll admit to you, this is not a Catholicism 101 question right here. I read this and I was like, I didn't know that at all. 3 extra seconds. 3, 2, 1.
Oh.
EANC. Oh my goodness.
You
Tricky.
tricked us.
I'm going to get fired. All right. Got it.
This is my time. This is my time.
What is Meher Shalal Hashbaz?
Thank you for saying that. Money's on D. 2, 1. C, the longest name in the Bible. Pays to know your Bible, everybody. All right. Which imperial document granted religious liberty and legal status to Christians in the Roman Empire? Hint. Father Sidlachik made a reference to this when he talked about significant changes in history in the life of the church.
A month ago, yeah. Well, that's true. I didn't say that, actually. It was implied.
Yeah. It pays to come to Catholicism on Tap regularly. Father Sidlachik referenced this explicitly at the last Catholicism on Tap. The answer, of course, as the Edict of Milan. C. All right. Which of the Beatles was baptized Catholic? How many Beatles fans out there? We got 2? All right. Well, good luck to the rest of you.
Do you know? I'm kind of a Ringo fan, you know? Kind of a Ringo fan.
Just because.
Although I feel like it's going to be John and George.
Deans were created for that.
We're going with Ringo. Here we go, Ringo. Ringo. No.
Jordan Paul.
It wasn't John and George either.
Wasn't John and George. Wasn't Ringo. Wasn't all of them. All right. No peeking, no Googling. What is the last book of the Old Testament?
That's a trick question.
The trick question.
Some Bibles have the Maccabees as the last one, but that's not an option on here.
All right. And the answer is E, Malachi. I see some celebrations. I see some looks of Paul. Onward we go. Section 3, everybody. We're just going for it. Full send. Is it cheating if you use your Bible? It is at this very moment. Otherwise, no. All right. Here's a nice little warm-up, again, softball question to get our brains working. Synoptic, as in synoptic gospels, means, answer is E, seen with one eye. Oh, man. All right, it's just getting good, everybody. What did the man with whom Jacob wrestled say to him before he departed? Hint, the answer is not E.
Kind of in a paraphrase translation, yeah. Living Bible translation, yeah.
In the New Living Bible translation, the answer is E. In every other biblical translation, the answer is A. Let me go, for the day is breaking. Who said charity covers a multitude of sins? Other than my dad. I'm sure somebody in the Bible said that.
Am I blanking on this one? Oh, do you think so? I'm guessing. Oh, it might be Peter. Now I'm doubting myself. This is bad.
Maybe Jesus said it. All right.
Jesus
The answer is A, St. Peter.
Oh,
Kind of
it was
trippy.
St.
You got St. Paul in there. You got Jesus. All right. What does the name, speaking of Jesus, our Lord and Savior forever, what does the name Jesus mean in Hebrew? The answer is not listed. It's Prince of Egypt.
Is it? No, wait. It's D. It's D. D. No, it's not D. It's just D. No, it's...
All right. The answer is D, the Lord is salvation. Wow, they got that at the last second. Holy smokes. All right.
Not how I would translate it.
According to the gospel account, what did the woman who was about to be stoned for being caught committing adultery cry out to Jesus?
Rock me gently, rock me slowly. That's dark.
That's a little too close.
That's dark, yeah.
Yeah, E is a little close for comfort for those with a pious conscience. Fortunately, the answer is C, nothing. This is about as much as St. Joseph in Scripture. All right. How many times does the word Antichrist appear in the book of Revelation? This is your abstract, just guess it, unless you're Dr. Dan Rizloff. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The answer is 0. Trippy. All right, the stacked table got it. All right, onward. This Old Testament personage had a talking donkey. Oops. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. How do I go back? Oh, no. You're welcome, everybody. If you didn't have it written down, you got a freebie. Ah, man, user error.
Good, because I was going to go Shrekaya.
All right, this derives from the Greek word meaning slanderer. The Greek word slanderer derived from this phrase.
No, that's not that. No, that's not it either. Definitely not that.
We have disagreement among the priests. Let's give him a second so they can keep up their unfair advantage. The answer is B, the devil. The devil. Don't overthink it, everybody. All right. At the Council of Jerusalem, the apostles settled the dispute by agreeing that, that's a lot of text. I'll give you a few seconds of credit and then hit the play button.
Taco Tuesdays? I think Taco Tuesdays, right? The last one, like the demon one? You had a dispute.
All right. The answer is A. Circumcision and following kosher food laws are not necessary to be Christian. Which, let's face it, that's a plus. We're going to put that in the W section in the history of Christianity. All right, we've got 3 left. The biblical teaching that a man is justified by his works and not by faith alone appears in which New Testament epistle? I see some people immediately putting their quill to papyrus. That's good. I'm not doing the timer on this one, so we're just going to ballpark it. 3, 2, 1. James. C. James. Yeah, go read James, everybody. James chapter 2. All right. Penultimate question. The behemoth. Behemoth? Oh, behemoth. Thank you so much. I'm glad they had that there. Mentioned in the book of Job was a/an. Pronouns not included. 3, 2, 1. Balrog. I'm just kidding. C. Hippopotamus. I know a lot of you LOTR nerds wanted to put Balrog. Hopefully you resisted, solid in your faith. All right, finally, and ultimately, this could be the deciding point for dozens of tables out there. We only have a dozen tables, but the Hebrew name Deborah means beautiful smile, be covenant, be cattle are dying, be the bee. Didn't see that coming? Neither did I. All right, everybody, that's it. Okay, so look down, count it up. How many did you get right?
That's bad. That's bad. No, that can't be right.
Of 36, how many did you get right?
38.
28.
28 is 20.
All right, holy cow. All right, I'm just going to tell you right now the father's numbers, and I might hear some cheers. The father's got 28 of 36 right. So stand up if your table got 28 or above. I should have known. All right, there you go. My father's studying paid off and a canon lawyer to boot. All right, everybody. Thank you for participating. God bless. We need a little bit of help cleaning up tonight, not only the leftovers, but the tables and chairs. So if you can stay and hang out with us, please do. Otherwise, have a blessed Advent, and we'll see you on January 12th. God bless.
Not January.
Click the link in the description below, but you probably already know that.